let's wrap up this question here that was started yesterday. So yesterday we built the BloodHound signals here, and let's see, let me pull up a screenshot. So just to give a very short summary here of the trade signal, right? So basically a trade signal will occur when there is a significant, distance between, a somewhat subjective low point here. It's kind of like a swing low, but not really a swing low here. I'm not going to get into details, but so when we have this, kind of unique swing low here, and then price keeps moving upward, and as the low of the bar keeps moving higher X number of points, then a trade signal will occur. And by the way, this would be a sell signal. So the screenshot was incorrect. This would be a screenshot for a sell signal. So at least according to the written email directions here. So, all right, so we're going to implement those trade signals. And Dimitri, this will answer your question number one here about taking these BloodHound signals that we built in yesterday's workshop and bringing them, setting them up in BlackBird. And then we're going to set up the stop entry order and then set up the trailing for this stop entry order, right? So as we can see here, the stop entry is going to trail higher, right? So this is a screenshot of a sell signal, not a buy, but a sell signal. And actually, shoot, yeah, this is a bad example here. But let's just say that the sell stop is implemented, right here, down a little bit lower. And then if the bars keep moving higher, or actually if the low price of the bars keep moving higher, then that sell stop entry order will trail higher as well until eventually, price until that sell stop entry order is picked up, right? Eventually it'll be picked up. All right, yeah, I'm going to have to, I can't rely on live market data here to do what we want. So let me switch my data feed over here. So let's disconnect live and let's switch over to the simulated data feed. Let's see, actually perfect. Yeah, I will move the market down here. Let's re-enable BlackBird. All right, so let's get BlackBird open. So the order settings button right there opens up the BlackBird interface. And so the first thing we're going to do is set up our signal source, right? Our trade signal source. So you can use either BloodHound signals, or if you have a third-party indicator that provides trade signals, you can use that as well. So we're going to use a BloodHound signal here that we built in yesterday's workshop. And so next we're click on the signal source again, right? And that'll open this up. Let's expand that a little bit. There. So the first thing we need to do is load in the BloodHound template file right here, right? So just use the ellipses button right there. The 3 dots is called an ellipses button, right? You can see that opens up the open window or the select window. Let's see here, sort by date. Let's see. All right, so there is yesterday's BloodHound workshop file. So let's load that in. And next, we need to select the entry signal template there. And so let's see, this was, there you go, counter trend, extreme price move. So that's the name of the logic template that we gave it, for these signals there. And that's it. So this, this question here only has entries. So there's no exit signals. So if you do build exit signals, then you can enable the exit signals and then select whatever logic template is holding or whatever logic template, you used to build your exit signals. All right. Now, of course, for some reason, some people think that when you reverse a trade, so let's say, right, your entry signals tell you, okay, go long here, and then price kind of flounders around, and then your entry signals say go short, right in the middle of a long trade, and then you have a reversal short entry signal. Some people think that for some reason you need to exit your long trade before BlackBird can reverse it into a short position, and that is not true. So if you give if BlackBird receives a long, let's say a long entry signal, for example, and it has a long trade position open, and then BlackBird receives a short entry signal, BlackBird is smart enough to close out your long position properly and reverse the trade automatically. So you don't have to exit your long trade, before it can reverse to a short trade. Okay. So just to be clear on that. And of course, vice versa for short trades. BlackBird can reverse a short trade automatically as well. Right, exit signals are only needed for one purpose only, which is just to flatten the position. So, instead of waiting for your stop losses to get filled and hit, right, some people, have developed exit signals to close out the trade a little earlier instead of waiting for those stop losses to get filled. And that simply is all that an exit signal is for. So, all right. So anyway, so we have our entry signal set up. So we're good to go there. So now we can build the stop entry order. So let's go to our order set here, and we want to use a stop entry. And so the very first time you set up an order set, it takes a minute to load, the whole menu system up here. So unfortunately, that's kind of one of the drawbacks to NinjaTrader's new UI language, is it does take a little bit of loading time the very first time, but once it's been loaded the first time, it'll load up a lot faster afterwards. Okay, so let's open up the our entry order here. So it is a stop entry. And so now we need to set up the initial placement, right? So as mentioned, we want it 2 ticks below the low price right there. So let's go into the initial placement, and that is where we can specify, which bar price we want our order to go. So let's change this from the closing price of the bar. Let's see here. So actually, this was phrased in terms of a short trade. So a long trade is going to use the high of the bar, and there we go. So for a short trade, it's going to use the low of the bar here, right? So there we go. And we want it, 2 ticks below the low. So we'll set that up like so. Okay. Yep. So for a long trade, right, the stop entry is going to be placed at the high of the bar, right? It's going to be trailing down from the high of the bar for a long trade and wait for price to reverse and pick it up. And it's going to be sitting 2 ticks above the high. So, all right. So that is the initial placement. And so this, right. So this states that the entry order, is supposed to either, trail higher for a short trade or trail lower for a long trade. So let's go into the trailing actions and set up those trailing rules for this. So, right, so in the trailing actions, we need to set the mode to custom here. And now we can click the add trailing rule here. So, all right, so let's see here. we want this entry order to just start trailing immediately. There's no special requirement for that stop entry to keep moving up higher or keep moving down lower. So that means there's no trigger. We can just jump straight to the action. And so the action is where you specify what the new price is that you want your order to be moved to. So under the action, we are using the move order to action, right? So you can see there's lots of actions in here. And so if you want to trail an order, right, move an order around, then the action is move order to. And then down below the move to part here, we can open this menu up, and this is where we can set up the new price for our entry order. And so we don't want to move that entry to the last price. We want to, again, we want to keep, so for a long trade, we want to keep moving our stop entry, to the high. So, or if it's a short trade, we want to keep following that low price higher. And so for a long trade, we keep following the high of the bar down lower. Again, let's add that 2-tick offset, right? So there we go. And all right, so that is the action, which sets, all right, the new price for the order. And now the repeat. So sometimes a trailing roll, you only want it to act one time, right? And then it doesn't repeat anymore. But since we want this entry order to keep moving higher or keep moving lower, we need to set the repeat to indefinitely, right? So if it's, if we received a long trade signal here, then we'd want that stop entry order to keep trailing down indefinitely until price finally reverses, right, and goes back up. So, all right, so there we go. The repeat's pretty darn simple. Just set it to indefinitely for this trailing roll here. And that is it. So that's really all there is to this question. So let's click OK. And of course, let's see here. Oh, so yeah, always pay attention to these messages down here. So BlackBird will give you messages telling you, of various things here. And so this message is telling us that because we loaded in a BloodHound signal, BlackBird needs to load up the BloodHound indicator. So, so to do that, you have to reload your Ninja script or reload your chart here. So let's reload our chart. So that way BlackBird can load up the BloodHound indicator. All right, and there we go. So now we can actually see those trade signals there, right? Yep. So once price, once the high price got low enough, it enabled a trade signal there. So now if I turn on the auto trade button, right? If I enable the auto trade button, set that to on. So once this bar closes, there we go. There is our buy entry order. And here, let's shrink this up a little bit. There. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the market trend direction going south, so we can just make sure that our stop entry is trailing down. So we'll just let this trail down a couple of bars. Right, there we go. So good, it trailed down. Oops. All right, I'll just let this next bar close here. And there we go. All right, so there we go. We got at least 2 bars of that stop entry trailing down. So now, well, and so obviously if I move the market up, it's just going to fill that entry order. So that's all I needed to do is just, make sure that the trailing's working correctly. So with this, so, all right. So that does it for our first question today. So that was our emailed in question. And there we go. And it got picked up. So